Hello everyone. Today we'll be learning about point slope form. So to start off, let's take a look at this problem. Loki wants to describe this graph to Thor. However, he has limited time and needs an easy way to describe it. How can he describe this graph in just one equation? Well, that's what we're going to be learning about today. Is about how can we describe graphs with just using one equation. And today's equation is going to be point slope form. So point slope form looks like this. Y minus y1 equals m, and then in parentheses, it's going to be x minus x1. Your x and your y1s are just points on a graph. The y and the x without a subscript are just remaining as y and x. And then the m is our slope, as we've been looking at in previous videos. So the thing about point slope form is that all you have to do is to plug in the information from the graph into the formula, and that's it. So let's take a look at some examples. So let's talk about this one, where Loki wants to describe this graph to Thor. Well, now we know that all he has to do is to put it into point slope form, which as we mentioned earlier is y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. So the first thing that we need to identify is our y1 and our x1, which could be any point on this graph. So let's pick our first point, which has to fall on the line of our graph. So it could be any point as long as it lands on the line. For example, this one, which we could see is 2, comma 2. So that's the first thing, our point. The next thing we're going to need is our slope, our m, which we know can be found by counting the rise over the run. So I have these 2 points, and all I'm going to do is to count the rise, which is 1, 2, 3, and my run, which is just 1, 2. Remember that slope is rise over run, so I'm going to put this as m equals 3 over 2. Now, all I'm going to do is to plug these directly into my equation. So my y is just going to stay as y. I'm doing y minus y1, which is just the y value of my point, which is, remember, this is x and this is y. So I'm going to do y minus 2 equals m, which is my slope, 3 over 2. And then in parentheses, I'm going to leave it as x. Remember that that first y and that first x stays as just y and x. And then I'm going to do x minus x1, which is just the x value, which is 2. And that's it. That's how I put this line into point slope form. Now let's do some more examples. A line on a graph passes through the point 2, 5 and has a slope of 3. What is the equation of the line in point slope form? Then graph the line. So first let's remember that point slope form is y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Remember that y is just going to stay the same. And here they give me my points, which is going to be 2, 5. Our x, comma, our y. So that means that our y1 is going to be 5 equals m, which is our slope, which they also tell us right here. So I'm just going to put 3 instead of m, and then that x stays the same, minus x1, which is 2. And that's it. That is my equation in point slope form. But now they want us to graph the line. Well, since we know what the equation looks like now, remember that this is just a description of what our line looks like. So we just need to decipher it. Well, we know that a point on the graph is 2, 5. So I could plot 2, 5, which is 1, 2 over here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up here. And my slope is 3. So that means that my slope is 3 over 1, which means it's going to go up 3 into the right 1. But since I can't go up 3, I'm actually going to do the opposite to go now this way. Because as you can see here, our graph goes up 3 and to the right 2, but it also goes 1, 2, 3 down and to the left 2. So I'm going to do the same thing over here, where I'm going to go in now down 3 and to the left 1. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 1. And then I'm just going to do the same thing as far as I can. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. And that's it. And now all I need to do is to draw a line that connects all of my points. And that's my line. So through this word problem, we were able to do two things. We were able to put it in point slope form, and we were able to graph the line. So let's do some more examples. A line on a graph passes through the point -2, 7, so this is our point, and has a slope of -4. -4 is my slope. What is the equation of the line in point slope form? Then graph the line. So let's start by remembering that point slope form is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Now, y stays the same, minus y1, which is my 7 because 7 is my y value, equals m, my slope is -4, and then in parentheses I'm going to put x minus, and if you remember from our slope video, whenever we had to do minus a negative, we put it inside parentheses, like that. Because since our x value is -2, we have to show that we are doing minus a negative. And what happens when we do minus a negative? Well, it becomes positive. So now I'm going to rewrite this to show that it's y minus 7 equals -4. And instead of minus -2, I'm simply going to write x plus 2. And this is my point slope form. So what did we learn here? That whenever it's in point slope form, your points are always going to be the opposite sign. For example, this is +7 and we wrote it as -7. And this is -2 and we wrote it as +2. So keep that in mind in the future when we're going to have to be finding out what are the points from the equation. But for now, let's just simply graph the line. We know that on our line, there's a point -2, 7. So let's plot that. -2 is 2 times to the left, and then +7 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 would be right here. So this is my first point. And I know that my slope is going to be -4 over 1, which means it goes down 4 and to the right 1. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 1. And then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, to the right 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, to the right 1. And that's it. And now I'm just simply going to connect my points. And that's it. That's my line. So right now, from a point and from a slope, we were able to write it in an equation and we were able to graph it. Now let's do another example. A line on a graph passes through the points 2, 4 and 4, 8. What is the equation of the line in point slope form? Well, here, they simply gave us 2 points. 2, 4 and 4, 8. But they didn't give us our slope. But now the good thing is that we know how to find slope when we're given 2 points. Remember that slope is found by doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which means we could simply use these points and to find our slope. So 2, 4 would be our x1 and our y1, and then 4, 8 would be our x2 and our y2. So I'm going to rewrite this as 8 minus 4 over 4 minus 2. 8 minus 4 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. 4 divided by 2 is just 2. Therefore, my slope is 2. And now I could put it in point slope form. Now you're probably wondering, well, which point can I use? Well, remember, for point slope form, we could use any point as long as it lands on our line. So now I'm going to write this. Y minus y1 equals m, x minus x1. So now remember, y stays the same. I'm going to pick this point right here, 2 comma 4. So I'm going to write y minus 4 equals m, my slope, which we found was 2. And then inside of x, I'm going to write x minus 2. And that's it. This is my point slope form. And now let's graph it. I'm going to first graph the point 2 comma 4, which I know is here is 2, and then I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know it goes right there. And then I know that 2 is the same thing as saying 2 over 1. So up to the right one. So now that means that from this point, I'm going to go up 1, 2, and to the right one. And then to make more points, I'm going to go the opposite direction. So down 2 and to the left one. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, and 1, 2, 1. And that's it. This is now my line. So now take a moment to pause the video and try this problem out. And when you're ready, unpause it and let's work on it together. A line on a graph passes through the point -2, 4 and 4, -8. What is the equation of the line in point slope form? Then graph the line. Well, the first thing we need to find is our slope. So let's use these 2 points to find our slope. Remember that our slope is found by doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Y2 will be 4 in this case, minus y1, which is -8, so minus -8, over -2 minus 4. This is the same thing as saying 4 plus 8, so let's rewrite this as 4 plus 8 over -2 minus 4. 4 plus 8 is 12, -2 minus 4 is -6, therefore our slope would be -2. So now I'm going to plug this in to point slope form, which we know is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Y we keep as y minus y1, which I'm going to use this point right here. So my y is going to be 4 equals my slope, which is -2, x minus my x is -2, so I'm going to write minus 2. Remember that these minus and negative turns positive. So I'm going to rewrite this as y minus 4 equals -2, x plus 2. So this right here is my point slope form. So now let's graph it. Well, first I'm going to graph -2, 4. Well, I know -2 lands on my x-axis, 2 to the left of 0, and 4 lands on my y-axis. So it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. So this will be -2, 4. And from here, I see that my slope is -2, meaning I'm going to go down 2 and to the left 1. So from this point, I'm going to go down 1, 2, and to the left 1, down 2 and to the left 1, down 2 and to the left 1, down 2 and to the left 1, and then finally down 2 and to the left 1. And I could also do the opposite. For example, right here, up 2 and to the left 1. And then from here, I will connect all of my points. And that is how I draw my line. And that's it. Now the last type of question that we're going to look at is identifying the equation from a graph. But this is basically what we've been doing, except now we just have an additional step of identifying the points on the graph ourselves. So for example, here, I see a point right here. I see a point right here. I see a point right here. So it's just about identifying points. Remember, we only need 2 to find our slope, and then we just need 1 point. So now, from this graph, we could identify the slope without using the formula by just counting this goes down 2 and to the right 1, 2, 3 times. So that means that my rise is 2 and my run is 3. But since it goes down, I need to make sure to write this as -2 over 3. And then my point, well, I could just pick any point. I'm going to go with this one, which is -1, comma 1. Therefore, my point would be -1, comma 1. And if you can't see it so well, let me just erase this. So this point right here is to the left, one negative, so 1 time, so it'll be -1, and then it goes up 1 time. So now remember, the formula is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. And when we put this into point slope form, it'll be y minus 1 equals -2 over 3, parentheses x. I remember we're going to write this as x minus -1. So that's going to become positive. Therefore, we write x plus 1. So that's it. So now take a moment to pause the video and work on the following problems. All it's asking you to do is to identify the equation in the given lines, and this will be in point slope form. So let's remember, our point slope form is y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And when you're ready, unpause the video and let's work on them together. Well, the first thing that I want to do is that I want to identify my points. For example, I see one here and one here. But it doesn't have to be these two specifically. You could have also done this one, or this one. So I'm going to focus on this point right here and how it changes to this point right here to figure out my slope. So let's figure that out first. My slope. I see that my graph goes down 2 and then it goes to the right 1 time. Therefore, I'm going to write this as -2 over 1, which could just be simplified to -2. And then, once I do that, the second step is to figure out my point, my x comma y. So I'm going to erase just this so we could see our graph a little better. Now, for example, I'm going to use this point right here. I see this point goes to the left 1 time, so that'll be at -1. And then it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Therefore, the x value is -1 because it lies on -1 on the x-axis. And then my y value will be 4 because it lands on 4 on the y-axis. Now I'm going to plug this into my point slope form, which will be y minus y1, which is 4, equals my slope, 2x. Now remember, I'm going to write this as x minus -1, which will be plus 1. And that's it. That's my point slope form for the first graph. Now let's work on the second graph. First, I'm going to identify my points. I have one here, and one here. So let's identify my slope. I see that my graph goes up 1 and to the right 2 times. So therefore, my slope will be 1 over 2. And remember, it doesn't matter which points you choose, because this point also goes up 1 and to the right 2. So no matter what points you pick, you will get the right answer. And the point that I'm going to use, well, I'm going to use this one right here. I see that on x, it is at 2. And on y, it's down, so it goes to -2. Therefore, my point will be 2 comma -2. And so now let's put it into point slope form, which will be y. Here this is y minus -2, so it'll be plus. It'll be y plus 2 equals 1/2, parentheses x minus 2. And that's it. That's my point slope form. Now let's work on this last example. A line on a graph passes through the points 3, 4, and 5, 8. What is the equation of the line in point-slope form? Then solve for y. Well, point-slope form, let's recall, is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. So first I want to figure out my slope. And I could figure out my slope using 2 points by doing m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, where 3, 4 will be my x1 and my y1, and then 5, 8 will be my x2 and my y2. Therefore, I'm going to plug this in as 8 minus 4 over 5 minus 3. 8 minus 4 is 4, and 5 minus 3 is 2. Therefore, my slope will be 4 divided by 2, which is 2. And then I could pick any point, which I'm going to pick this one, 3, 4. So I'm going to do y minus 4 equals 2 parentheses x minus 3. And that's it. That's my point slope form. But now it's asking me something very interesting. It says then solve for y. Well, this goes back to my video on literal equations, where we would solve for a variable by moving the other numbers and variables around. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to basically isolate y. And we want to simplify this equation as much as we can. So the first thing that I'm going to do is that I want to get rid of those parentheses by distributing the 2. So therefore, I will get y minus 4 equals 2 times x would be just 2x, because when they're next to each other, they're still multiplying. So we're basically just showing that we're multiplying 2 times x. And then 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. So now I'm left with y minus 4 equals 2x minus 6. And I'm going to follow the same inverse operations that I did in my previous videos, where here I want to solve for y. So I want to get rid of this negative 4. And I'm going to do that by adding 4 on both sides. And I get y equals 2x minus 2. And that's it. I solved for y. This right here is another form of a linear equation. And we're going to talk about that in the next video.